Hello beer tubers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter the Master of Puppets, with another 2-for-1 review that is because of nostalgia. So I went shopping the other day at the local supermarket and I saw canned beers from Wychwood. And I haven't had Wychwood beer in a while, and it was one of the breweries that I was really into when I was getting into craft beer, so I wanted to pick them up to review them. Guys, this is two classics, or at least one classic, I think one is new, but this is none other than the famous Wychwood Brewery Hobgoblin and their newer Wychwood Brewery Hobgoblin Gold in cans. It was funny when we got Hobgoblin back in the day. So it's one of Wychwood beers is not independently. Let's go through the entire thing quickly. Wychwood Brewery is not independently owned anymore. Right now they're owned by Marston's, I believe. Quite big regional, I guess it's bigger than regional now, sized brewery over in the UK, and like their famous, one of their famous beers is like Pedigree, and I think is it Doom Bar, one of them. It's like old school, very old school British beer, the stuff I was getting into when I was getting into craft beer. But they're owned by these guys now. They used to be independent, and actually I think Marston's even bought out Wells and Young's, which was a great brewery, which is interesting because according to a lot of British beer tubers, a lot of the quality drops when Marston's is taking over, especially according to Simon from Relay Craft Beer. He loves to hate on Marston's. I haven't had their beers in years. It's not something I check out often. I remember we used to get their stuff on cask at the local English pub that serves cask, but I don't go there too often anymore. Once in a while, it can be fun to go there and have some cask ale, but then I opt for something that I know will be pretty nice still, like for example Old Peculiar or something like that by Theakston. But this was one of the breweries that I was really getting into when I was getting into craft beer or just beer in general. When I have been like 17, 16, something like that. Like it seems very early because back then I was, 16 and 17. It seems very early, but in Denmark, the legal drinking age is 16, so it's very common. You go in high school. You're in high school. You start experimenting at parties and whatnot with different alcoholic beverages, whatever. But one of the very first craft beer I ever drank was Woodhouse and Hall, the Badger Brewery's Golden Champion. We can't get their beers anymore. I'd love to try and do a review of some of their beers, just to try and see how they are nowadays. I loved that beer. I loved Golden Glory, Thirsty Ferret. Something with fruit, like a ginger beer. That was a few. I think they still exist. It's a bigger regional brewery from Dorset. But another brewery that I then gravitated onwards towards was Wychwood. And I was immediately attracted by their labels because they had all these fairy tale creatures and they were like kind of metal looking. I was a metalhead back then as well. So I started checking out the beer and I checked out Hobgoblin, and back in the day I lost my shit over it. So I went and passed these beers in the supermarket, or not lost my shit, but I thought it was really, really, really good. And then we got it in cans, then it was out in the country, then it was back in bottles along with a couple of other beers, and then it was out of the country and now it's back. Sometimes it's weird with breweries' beers over here when they get imported. But then I went through the mall or the supermarket and it's like, what? Fuck, nostalgia. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's see if nostalgia holds up with the quality of the craft beer world at the moment, which I do not think it will. And then I went on YouTube, of course, and watched my old reviews and watched Simon and Chad and all the old guard beer tubers review this beer. Simon recently reviewed the gold version of Hobgoblin, and he thought it was utterly abysmal. So that was fun to watch. But it was last year, I think. So I thought, yeah, let's do a review, because initially I thought just drink him at a party or something because it's party beers. But I thought I could make for a fun review and a fun little throwback to memory lane and my past beer experiences when I was getting into craft beer. So I think the brewery that owned them before was called Brexbeer or something, or Wychwood, and Brexbeer was the same thing. I think we can actually get a good amount of some of their beers locally at a supermarket. Maybe I should just go through them. They're not cheap at all, actually, for what they are. But hey, let's do this. Let's see if nostalgia holds up. So let's go. Let's save Hobgoblin. I think that might still be good. And I think even Simon did a side by side of Hobgoblin in a can and in a bottle, and came to the conclusion that the can was much tastier. So let's go with the newcomer, Hobgoblin Gold, a gilt-edged golden refreshment full of mischievous character on 4.2% alcohol. Now, yeah, I think they even changed the look of the goblin as well. It has a sword on my hobgoblin glass, and now it has an axe. But I think it also had an axe, and then it had a sword. They've done a lot of changes with the labels on these beers. But yeah, 4.2% British style golden ale. Not a style of beer I check out at all really often. It's brewed with barley malt and wheat malt. And that's about all the info. There is some hashtags and stuff to check out, or their website and Instagram and all that. 2.1 UK units. I mean, it looks cool to can, but I'm stalling a bit here because I was looking to find it online. I just forgot to pull it up on my phone because this actually has some interesting hop varieties. It's supposed to have like Citra and like new modern hops, which seems completely off. They do it both in bottle and cask. I can see it says here that bottle is 4.5%, but this is hopped with, listen to this, Pilgrim, Nelson, Citra, and Summit. Citra and Nelson in a British golden ale. I wonder if you will taste this. Taste it. At least it doesn't seem so according to Simon's review. But we got the Hobgoblin Gold poured in a nice traditional Nonic pint glass from the UK as well, from Fuller's. One of my very first beer glasses, actually. That is bright, clear, golden yellow color, soft stream of carbonation coming up the sides of the glass, a little bit of white head. I mean, it's not too much, but I also fill it up to the brim like you do in the UK in traditional pubs. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a golden ale. It does, or even a lager. But let's check out the aroma on Hobgoblin Gold. I'm not really smelling anything, to be honest. Okay, Simon lost his shit over it. I think it's just how tame it is. Because this has the lineage kind of like in the UK. And also for a lot of, I think, old guard beer tubers, like when they were getting into beer. The Hobgoblin, the Wychwood beers were like, you know, that was amazing stuff back then. And then you come back to it and it's bought up by a big brewery. And then, you know, it just seems to decline. I talked about this in my foul tasting about Grimbergen. I feel the same way about Grimbergen now, with the beers just being utterly abysmal. But is it your palate evolving, or is the recipes are really a lot worse with other people taking over? But all I'm getting is like soft, generic English fruit esters from the English yeast. I'm not really getting hops at all. It has a slight soapy character, but it's so mild. This is crazy mild, but usually golden ales are quite mild. But let's give it a taste, guys. Cheers. It's really soapy and flat, like just like flat and bleh. This has as little fucking taste as like some of the really crazy shitty mass-produced lagers. I'm not even kidding. What the fuck? I completely see what Simon was talking about. He might have gone a little bit overboard, but what? From a brewery I really used to respect so much, this is what the actual fuck. And with Citra and Nelson, do you just take one hop and put in the entire batch? It just screams nothing and emptiness and soulless beer. What? This is so close to every other mass-produced just supermarket beer, really. Like, if you just go to a random supermarket, you go through the section of British beers, and there's, like, the bigger breweries, like Green King beers or other Marston beers. It's just, like, golden-colored ale with so soft fruit esters. I mean, some people would confuse this with lagers, because it's quite crisp. I mean, there's basically no malt character. It's very watery. It's very thin. No off flavors, which is nice. It's got a soapy thing. I think that's just like the little edge of hop character that is there. But wow, this is so fucking boring compared to what I remember these guys doing. But this, I really hope that they didn't touch Hobgoblin. I know it's a beer that has gone through a lot of changes over the year, but I hope they haven't touched it too much since it was taken over by Marston's. And these are also fresh cans. So it is Marston's Brewed Wychwood beer. Yeah, I could see myself drinking this to get drunk. That's it. That is one of the most boring beers I've had in a while. I wouldn't say it's horrible. It's just so boring. This is like lowest common denominator catch-all beer. That's it. It's a beer anyone can drink that tastes just like people are like, oh, that kind of like if you give it to someone who doesn't know anything about beer, they'll say, oh, it tastes like beer, or just that's like what you think when you think, oh, it's a beer. That's all I have to say about that. It's a beer. Whoa, that is disappointment galore. Simon gave it a 2, which I guess it would be like 20 maybe on my scale. I think that's way like that is like drain pour. I don't think it's a drain pour. It's soulless and it's boring, but chill it down on a hot summer's day. I would still drink a bottle if I need refreshment, or if I was at a party getting drunk. And this was 2 cans for $3 US. You can't. That's crazy cheap, but it tastes like that. It tastes like cheap beer, but I'm gonna go 60. It's okay, but very, very mediocre. Not pouring it out, I'd say. I can drink it, but this now judgment time. Hobgoblin. I used to love this beer so much. Back in the day, I used to drink it all the time on tap when it was available on tap. I was drinking it bottles. It was one of the first time I ever, like, along with Badger Brewery, it was one of the very first times I ever started seeking out beers from breweries. I want to try every Wychwood beer. I want to try like also every Badger beer because of this bad boy. So yeah, I think the style wise, it's kind of like some places they call it an English brown ale. Some places they call it like themselves, a ruby beer, and some places they call it an English strong ale or an English dark ale or whatever, or even a bitter. I mean, there's so many people that categorize it as different things, and a lot of people comment, or some people comment when I say like some rating site says that it's this style, and some rating site says it's another style. Okay, then I'll grade it according to what style it says on the fucking tin or the bottle. Like if it's a dark ale, okay, English darker ale, let's grade it as that, or look at it as that style, and then you can come in with the comments if it's out of style and whatnot. But I really hope this is, not fucked up and it will be as good as I remember. I'm sure it won't. A lot of it's probably going to be nostalgia, but pours a ruby color in the glass. I think the last time I had it, I remember it as being darker, more dark ruby, and it's got a decent head, and I mean, a hobgoblin glass where it's been washed so many times, the fucking label is almost worn out. This is a very long review for such beer like this, but I'm sorry guys, nostalgia keeps taking over. But almost a one finger beige-ish head. Let's check out Hobgoblin for the first time in probably like 3-4 years. Wow. That is like when this is almost like when movie studios takes like one of your favorite freaking like comic book characters and fucking utterly ruins it. It's almost the same feeling. Or when a band gets their entire lineup changed out and they release a new album and becomes shit, or just Metallica. Sorry, Metallica fans. I don't like their new stuff, but what the fuck. I pulled so many flavors when I watched the old review compared to this shit. I'm more pissed of smelling this than that, mainly because I don't have a relationship with that beer, or a relation or history with it or whatever, compared to this bullcrap. What the it's like smelling that beer with food coloring, pretty much. It's like smelling Hobgoblin Gold with food coloring. There's a little bit of a estery dark fruit thing that's reminding of like Bassett wine gums, subtle notes, but it used to have like toasty, roasty malt flavors. As far as I remember, it used to have much more dark fruit, nutty notes and stuff. But the aroma is so fucking plain. What the? How can you make beer with so? It's so fucking absurd. I've not even tasted this beer yet, and their slogan is what? Well, it was like, "What's up, lager boy? You're afraid you might taste something?" This just goes against everything these guys advocated for years. Let's fucking try this. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? This is so absurd and fucking hilariously dumb. Why? Why even try? I really want to check out all the other Wychwood beers that I can get locally at the moment, and maybe I'll do like a entire Wychwood tasting videos of those bottles. Holy crap! It's almost like they just took the Hobgoblin Gold and put in like food coloring or caramel coloring. It's so bland. It's so fucking bland. What does it say here? Barley malt. It's just, again, it doesn't have off flavors, but it's so fucking mild and bland. Caramel, maybe a bit of a toffee caramel thing, but it's so watered down to such a soulless beer. Really. I am so fucking disappointed in this. I used to love this brewery to the moon. Wow. I mean, I did this in another review where I talked with Jakob Maltz about nostalgia and how that plays in a lot of things, and nostalgia can be really fucking dangerous. Like, take the new Star Wars movie, for example. So many split opinions. A lot of it is nostalgia, a lot of it is trying new stuff, all that crap. I think it's the same a bit with the beer, but I really remember this having much more taste. And that's just, it's not a beer I had once or like 5 times or whatever. I had this beer plenty of fucking times. When I was getting into craft beer, now it's been a few years, as I said, but I had this quite a few times. Maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I drank it on occasion if I was out with friends and this was one of the beers at the pub and I just wanted a beer to slug down. I'd get something like this, like Hobgoblin, still because it was nostalgic. But what the fuck? Bland, soulless beer. And they say, "What's the matter, lager boy? Are you afraid you might taste something?" Fucking absurd. I like this a bit less almost than Hobgoblin Gold, only because it's disappointing me this much. Because this beer, I mean, this has less taste. I will say that. Yeah, much less taste. It does have a bit of hop character, but man. Oh well. I will still say breweries like this, I'm still very, very thankful for them having existed. Because if it wasn't for a brewery like Wychwood, I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing at the moment. Standing on a pedestal, still talking about beer, working in the beer industry, brewing beer on a daily basis pretty much nowadays. All this crap, I wouldn't have been, awesome stuff. I wouldn't have been doing it, but wow, it's just utter disappointment. I'm so sad, and I really don't want to, because it's such a nostalgic beer for me, I really don't want to give it a bad grade, but it just feels like just such a boring, bland, flavorless beer. If you go back to beers you've tried back in the day that were fucking amazing, and try them again that are fucking amazing. I have plenty of examples. It's not just because of palates changing and whatnot, because something like Laval not changed for so many years. One of the best Trappist ales, amazing beer. The Belgian Trappist ales, they haven't changed, but they're fucking amazing still. Something must have changed this. Maybe when they were bought out by Marston's to make this a lowest common denominator beer. But I really need to wrap this up because I've almost been rambling for 20 fucking minutes about how disappointed I am in this. Oh, nostalgia. Damn you, nostalgia. But I would almost rather drink the gold just because this is just disappointing me with every fucking sip I take. But, yeah. Again, it's not horrible. It's just such a big disappointment. I gave it a 75, I think, or so back in the day. And back in the day, you have to bear in mind as well with my grading scale. I was kind of grading according to the Danish grading scale, where like a 50 would be average, and then 70 good, 80 very good. But then it would be pretty much impossible to hit the super high marks. And now I grade more according to American style, like the 95's up is A+, below is A-, that kind of ordeal. Because I feel like more people understand that than the Danish scale. And more like what they do at other rating sites as well, I guess. But on the new scale, I will go a 60 on this. I feel bad giving it this low grade, but wow, it's just such a disappointment. The only time I would ever drink this if it was just to get drunk, I don't think I would ever spend my money on this, even though it's this cheap. You can even get cheap, like, Tistelniefjords Porter, that is a local beer, is still fucking amazing, a Baltic Porter, and that is only, what, for a big bottle, is 18 kroners, which is like $2. It's a little bit more expensive than this deal. There's also a deal, so, but I'd much rather get that than this bull crap. What the fuck happened to Wychwood? What the fuck happened to Wychwood? If you guys want to see my thoughts on the entire line that I can get locally, they have quite a few. Let me know. I'll do it. Hopefully it won't be as long as a rambling video as this. 21 minutes. I'm so sorry, guys. But that does it for the review of the very disappointing Nostalgia, You Let Me Down. Or maybe it was fucking Marston's Who Let Me Down. But that does it for the review in 2017 of Wychwood Hobgoblin and the new review of Hobgoblin Gold. Wow. Disappointment. So, if you guys had this in recent years, is your memories the same as mine? Did you enjoy it a lot back in the days? It's shit now. Let me know, guys. This was a fun little discussion. This almost should have been a freaking podcast or something instead, but oh well. Sorry for the length. Hope you bear with me and watch it anyways, because I think this was quite fun to do. So, as always, guys, let me know of those two beers. If you had them in recent years, as I said, or if you haven't had them in May, just go and pick them up like I did and get disappointed and hate on another big brewery. But as always, guys, remember to comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I'm going to say cheers and nothing, because fuck you. And see you guys in another beer review.